What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. So, guys, just want to do a quick recap here for the Indianapolis Colts, who won their preseason game yesterday against the Chicago Bears. The Indianapolis Colts and the Bears, who were pretty much locked tied at 7-7 apiece for the majority of the game, at least for the first half, mind you. And then the Bears had that little bit of a third quarter push where they were up by 2 scores. Had you thinking the Indianapolis Colts might be in trouble. But then, of course, Sam Ehlinger, the GOAT of the preseason, proceeded to put on another display. And with a late push, the Indianapolis Colts ended up winning in style in this game. So, want to talk about a couple things here quick, guys. First things first, again, Sam Ehlinger, I mean, what more can you say about him? 9 of 14 for 124 yards. Had 8 carries for 60 yards in the game. Actually was the only player for the Indianapolis Colts in the whole game that rushed for over 20 yards. And also had the rushing touchdown at the end that gave the Indianapolis Colts the lead. So definitely some good stuff there for sure. I definitely have to take into account a couple other things. Really liked that Shane Steichen, the coach, head coach, went ahead and went with 2-point conversions at the end of those games because he was basically just testing out some different things that the Colts may end up doing, later on in the season when Anthony Richardson is out there playing, testing different designs and everything else. So they're able to make those plays happen when it happens. I will say this. I know a lot of people were very upset that Anthony Richardson did not play in the preseason game. Believe me, I was one of those people. I was really expecting Anthony Richardson to at least play a quarter. We didn't get to see him at all yesterday, mainly due to the comment that was made by Josh Downs after the game. They talked about how after the joint practices with the Chicago Bears, there was a moment where they were talking about how the 2 long practices really got a lot of the guys more tired and more worn down. So it basically was a lot more to it than just practices for some of these guys. Some of these guys really got a lot of work in and was huge for the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts ultimately felt that there would not be much necessary for Anthony Richardson playing in that game when there was virtually no starters playing. So it is what it is. My guess is that this next week, the Eagles and the Colts will probably have their starters playing for a little bit of the next game against the Philadelphia Eagles. There's, like I said, they're going to have it to where they're only practicing against each other one time next week. It's a short week. They're practicing one time, and they're going to get some joint practices in, and then the Indianapolis Colts are going to need more time. Anthony Richardson is going to need those reps, and especially since you're not going to have a ton more practices afterwards until the season actually starts. So they're not going to at least get any more game time action until then. So I fully expect that Anthony Richardson will play. But anyways, back to this. Gardner Minshew, 13 of 15, 107 yards as well, 1 touchdown. Again, both Ehlinger and Gardner Minshew completing a good chunk of their passes. Gardner Minshew with the 1 touchdown to Juan Winfrey. And that ended up being a very lucky touchdown, but nevertheless, we will take it. Again, like I said, Sam Ehlinger, the GOAT, always putting in that work against these guys in the preseason. It's always funny. It does. I mean, I understand, of course, that we're talking about third, fourth, fifth string running backs here. But I mean, again, the Colts just cannot run the football with anyone other than Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. So it definitely is a little bit of a concern that the Colts' best rusher outside of Sam Ellinger, who's the quarterback, who's the backup quarterback, was Jake Funk, who had 5 rushes for 18 yards and another touchdown as well when they got into the red zone. So that kind of is a little bit of a nervous thing that we don't have a ton of great things on offense to run the football. I will say this from an offensive line perspective, at least from Gardner Minshew's sake, it was definitely better this week than it was last week. Like I said, the backup offensive linemen were in for most of the game. Gardner Minshew, I think, only got touched like twice in that almost entire first half that he played. So Gardner Minshew never got sacked. So it was definitely much improved. Was it great? No, but it was definitely better than anything else that we saw from the week prior and during the joint practices as well. Wide receiver wise, James Washington, leading receiver, 1 catch for 42 yards. That set up the biggest play of the day for the Indianapolis Colts, and of course led to a touchdown for the Indianapolis Colts later in that drive. DJ Montgomery, 2 catches for 39 yards. Big day for him. Will Mallory, his first game action, 2 catches for 29 yards. Fantastic to see him getting utilization in that as well. Like I said, Juwan Winfrey, 4 catches, 24 yards, and 1 touchdown. That all came, I think, pretty much in the first quarter. Amari Rodgers had a couple, 3 catches for 22 yards. Good to see him. Josh Downs, 2 catches for 20 yards. He played those first 2 drives or so. Deion Jackson had 2 catches for 15 yards. A couple other guys had some here and there. But all in all, I was really impressed with the wide receiver group that the Indianapolis Colts had. A lot of great open catches and a lot of contested catches too. It was impressive the amount of catches that were contested right off the gate and were still able to come down with it. Really on both sides. Both sides had very good luck with that. So really awesome to see that wide receivers really playing well there. Very impressed by James Washington, Will Mallory, and of course Josh Downs. Josh Downs needs to get utilized in that offense more often. Going to the defensive side of things, Nathan Peterman went 10 of 18 for 115 yards. That 1 touchdown, that 35-yard touchdown pass to Darius Fountain, the former Indianapolis Colt. Peterman was sacked once. Tyson Bagent was sacked once. He went 9 of 10 for 76 yards. And PJ Walker went 1 of 4, and he got sacked twice for 10 yards. Leading rushers for Chicago, Robert Burns, 8 carries for 40 yards. Nathan Peterman had 4 carries for 22 yards. Rashawn Johnson, 7 carries for 32 yards. So Chicago had a lot more effective of a day running the football against the Indianapolis Colts than what the Colts did by a long shot. At least from a running back perspective, that's what it was. The leading receivers for the Chicago, Darius Fountain, 5 catches for 86 yards and that touchdown that I mentioned. Isaiah Ford, 2 catches for 31 yards, and Simba Webster, 3 catches for 18 yards. Talking about some of the defensive players here for the Indianapolis Colts, a couple guys that really stood out. So Nick Cross finished the day with 8 tackles overall. Really liked what I saw from Nick Cross in this game because Nick Cross had a bunch of really good tackles. He seemed to be in pursuit of everything in that first half for sure. Him and Grant Stewart, who also finished with 6 tackles as well. Grant Stewart had that 1 sack on PJ Walker. Grant Stewart and Nick Cross had multiple tackles where they were in on it together They were flying all over the field, making big hits, making big plays, really making it difficult for the Chicago Bears to get anything started right off the bat with PJ Walker. And it was really awesome to watch. Nick Cross, who's been having a fantastic camp so far, really is showing a lot of great things in preseason right now. Grant Stewart, that's now his 17th tackle of the preseason for games. So that's fantastic to see Grant Stewart doing that. And I think it's his second sack. So really awesome to see there. Titus Leo, who was the rookie that we drafted. Fantastic job by him in that game. 7 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection at the line, 1 QB hit, and 1 sack. So Titus Leo really put it together in that game. Really had a really good day. Can't say enough good things about it. He looked really strong, looked really fast. Out of Tommy Wall actually can be very much credited for that sack as well for Titus, because he was able to push the quarterback into Titus Leo a little bit with the pressure up the middle, and Titus was able to make the play ultimately, which is great to see. Another couple guys that really stood out. Jalen Jones, another one. Jalen Jones was drooped over Darius Fountain all night long. The one time he wasn't guarding Darius Fountain, Darius Rush ended up giving up that big touchdown, ended up getting hurt, I believe, on the play, actually. But Jalen Jones, for the most part, had Darius Fountain held in check very well. Had a couple really good plays. I mean, I know Darius Fountain was giving him a little bit of work, but Jalen Jones was drooped over him all night long, making every catch very hard to make, and had a couple really good deflections, couple really good tackles. He was everywhere, man. And that was really awesome to see, because you got Juju Brents, who is still dealing with the injury now, or is coming back and is trying to get up to speed. You now have Darius Rush, who has been on and off with the injuries. And Jalen Jones has been the only rookie corner that we got that's been consistent enough to stay on the field and showing plays. And that's exactly what you need from a guy like Jalen Jones. And Jalen Jones has been making it happen. I'm very, very impressed. As it stands right now, in my opinion, he's cornerback 3 in the moment. Right now, that's what he is. And then another guy that was impressive, Ronnie Harrison Jr. Ronnie Harrison Jr. ended up forcing the fumble. Ended up forcing the fumble on Robert Burns, and the ended up being recovered by Chris Lamons. And that's the very interesting part here, guys. The fact that, guys like Ronnie Harrison Jr. and James Washington, who was signed 3 days ago, right before this game. And James Washington has the biggest catch of the day for the Indianapolis Colts to move them forward. And then Ronnie Harrison, at the end of the game, when it mattered, got the fumble and was able to force that. So 2 guys that the Colts got within the past week both made huge plays at the end of the game to make it to where the Colts win the football game. And that's what matters. And that's how you stay on the roster. Because even if you're not familiar with the scheme, you're not familiar with how the plays are ran or what kind of opponent you're facing, you still go out there and make plays. And that is exactly what they did. Really awesome to see that. Couple other guys here: Liam Anderson, 6 tackles; JoJo Doman, 6 tackles; Khalid Kareem with 5 tackles, had a sack, a tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits. Trevor Denbo, 2 tackles, also had a sack as well. For what it's worth, everybody, I mean, it is preseason, but clearly the Colts need to get better at depth for stopping the run, because giving up that much rushing yards that they did, like I said, the main rushers, Dante Foreman had 3 carries for 12 yards. He was averaging 4 yards a carry. And then, of course, I talked about it. Nathan Peterman had 4 carries for 22 yards. Rashawn Johnson averaged 4.5 per carry. Burns averaged 5 per carry. So clearly the Bears didn't have a ton of problems, at least moving the ball with the running game. So that's going to be something that needs to be better. Like I said before, guys that are stocks rised after yesterday, clearly Josh Downs again. And from offensive wise, James Washington, another one. Defensive wise, I'd have to say Jalen Jones, Grant Stewart, and Nick Cross, all with rising stock. Some guys who didn't make me feel good about them. Pharaoh Brown is another one. Pharaoh Brown had a couple of penalties against him. As in general, the Colts had a lot of penalties against them the other day. But I will say this. The officials were absolutely god awful in that preseason game. I was watching that and I'm like, what the heck are we doing here? Like, they called a flag on a punt and the guy didn't know what the flag was on or who it was on. And so after a 5-minute conference of pointing in every direction, they just say, we're going to redo the down. And then threw a flag again on the Bears for an illegal formation, which should have been what the flag was on in the first place. So, and then of course, like I said, and then there was also a play too where Sam Ehlinger also got a first down, and they marked him a whole 1.5 yards behind where he actually ended up, and said it was 4th down, and then we proceeded to not get the 4th down and gave Chicago the ball back. So I like to say ball doesn't lie. I mean, clearly it was a terrible officiating crew. I'm not going to look too much into it. There were a couple of dumb mistakes, especially on Pharaoh Brown and a few of the other offensive linemen, but there was a couple penalties on there that were insanely suspect. Insanely. So just saying that right off the gate. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this game. Greatly appreciate all of you for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.